to get back into sculpting our set that we were working on last week. And so you can see here the progress we've made. Let's bring the light. Let's see if I can get the light to look better. Well, it's kind of glaring on the plastic. But anyways, so what we've got is we have a grassy green area, and we have our dried out grass area here. We have a little creek separating the two parts. And so this is basically an extension of this set that we built. And you can kind of see it here. We've got the house of the mother. She goes across, and this is going to be her dead tree. There's no apples in it. And so where the set extends is in this area here. So this is where we're kind of extending it onto this next piece of plexiglass. And so over here you can see we've got the grass done. And we don't have a creek, and we don't have a bridge yet. But we have this area to complete next, which is the lower part of the grass. And so we've like textured it, and we've added some more colors and things. And I think what I'm gonna do is, so I need to figure out what color to do this. And I'm thinking I should probably either lighten or darken the green before I add it to this. So which would look better, light or dark? That's the question. Well, it's a darker color green. This actually wouldn't look too bad. I think this might be good actually for the little bushes in the back. But for the, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Let me see what this looks like. This would be slightly darker, but is it dark enough to be noticeable? I would say so. Yeah, actually, so I think straight green is probably going to be good, because this is, I lightened this green up a bit, so it's got some yellow in it. And then here, I think that looks pretty good, actually. Just looking through my web camera to kind of look, see what the overall look would be. So, yeah, okay. So I'm going to use this straight green. This here is the lighter color. I have some left. I'm going to probably put that off to the side. We can use that later for maybe some detailing. So, where's my tool? Let me get my tool. It's on the floor over here. Right. So I've got my, I use this tool here to apply silicone to the outside of sculptures often. So it's just I think they use it for icing cakes and stuff like that. It's really thin and it's metal and it's not sharp, like it won't cut your finger and stuff. I mean, you probably could if you really pressed super hard or something, but it's really flexible. I hope you can see that. It can bend easily. And what's great about it is you can just use it to cut right through blocks of clay like it's like butter. But I have a lot of silicone on it, so I'm off to the side. I'm just trying to clean it off a bit before I do use it because I don't want silicone in my clay. I did not think to do this before. Alright. Alright, so that's kind of clean. It's not perfect, but... So what I do is I'll just have a block of clay and I'll just cut off chunks like this. That's what you do. So I have what I think is about enough clay to make the next strip. So this set is somewhat of a forced perspective set, right? So trying to think if there's anything I can do to make it appear like the foreground green is closer, but I think I'm not really too worried about it. I think I'll just texture it up a bit, a little bit more texture, and can't really think of anything else. Hey, Hoser Lou, welcome back. Welcome to the show. Let's see here. All right. So we're gonna add a nice thick green strip to the bottom, and I've got my favorite tool, which is a 007 wax spatula, which I use all the time. Now I am gonna line up my paper underneath here because it did shift. So what I've got is the plexiglass is, I drew my sketch and put the plexiglass on top so I can kind of, I don't have to really measure much in terms of, where things go, because usually I would use dividers like this. And I'd say, okay, well, I could go on my drawing and then transfer the measurement from the drawing here and, describe a line. But with plexiglass and just doing it right on top of a drawing, it makes it a lot faster. If you have plexiglass, like I had a bunch, and so since I wasn't using it, I thought maybe I'll just use it for my short film. I imagine you can use glass as well. You could probably buy pieces of glass, but plexiglass is a little bit safer. It's you can bend it and stuff, not have to worry too much. Alright. Evidently there's a hole in our swimming pool in the back. Alright, so I think this is going to look pretty good. I think the difference in color is nice. Okay, so can I say here? So I am going to have my main character walk over here. There's also going to be probably 4 or 5 other characters that need to be in this set. And so when I put them in here with like Photoshop or something, I might end up using one of these lines as kind of where they're standing on top of grass, or I'm not really too sure yet. From a design perspective, it's kind of hard to predict, how things will look when you put it all together until you actually do it, and then from there you need to decide, like, do I need to make changes? Do I need to, revise anything, or maybe add more layers or anything like that to give more detail in areas or less detail. So time will tell. I'm just going to kind of loosely lay the clay on here until it goes across. So let's see here. So in case you guys are interested in clay, this is not... do I have any? Oh, here we go. I started selling, or I just restocked our store with some Sargent Art clay. I have been using this clay on the set for darkening colors and whatnot, like this gray, to kind of tone the colors down and stuff. Sargent Art is working out really well. I mean, I've sold it in my store, and then I removed it for a while, and somebody asked if we had, flesh colored clay, and Sargent Art clay does make flesh colored cream clay, and they also have like a terracotta color, which is like flesh as well. So someone had mentioned, I forget who it was, on our site about, it's really hard to find that flesh colored clay. So my plan is once we sell some of the clay that we've got in stock, I'm going to start stocking up on the flesh colors again, just because it's really popular. Because you make a character most of the time, it's human, and you want them to look like at least human colors. So from like a brown shade all the way to a peach kind of shade. And stores always sell out of those colors fastest. And also Don Carlson, I mentioned that to him, you know. I hope that he'll make some flush colored clay. Another thing about the clay is that puppet putty is something that we're using in this film also. And I've got some red puppet putty here, which is still in a nice bag that Don sent the putty in. And this stuff is actually lightweight. It's really great. It's perfect for animation, and it's got like a translucency to it, which is awesome. And this is going to be what I use for the apples on the tree. So Don was telling me that he's actually making a new kind of medium hardness puppet putty, which he's planning to not make the soft and not make the normal version anymore like we've been selling. He's going to be making the medium version, which has more flexibility and stuff. It's like almost like sculpting rubber, and that's something that I have not gotten a sample in the mail or anything like that, so I can't really comment on how, you know, if it's good or not. But the test that I've seen that Don put together, where he bends it back and forth and everything, is really promising. It's actually, you know, I didn't think that he could improve on that very much, because just the way that it behaves already is really good in terms of not being able to break easily. And if you guys have animated characters like, you know, with clay fingers and stuff like that, you know that, like this kind of clay, Van Aken, which is what I'm using here. This is Van Aken clay. You can see the brand name is at the top there. It works really well, but it tends to crack over time the more that you sort of bend it back and forth. And the reason why that happens is the clay will compress and stretch depending on which way it's being bent. And due to that, what will happen is, so if you're animating a hand, you know, opening and closing or something, often, the top part, you know, let's say this is the top of the finger here, will sort of stretch, and it will create lines like that. And this bottom part compresses, right? So you're compressing the clay here. And then when you compress it, you bend it back. You know, and you can see, like, for example, I don't know if you can see it or not, you'll see like these little textured patterns that form where it's stretched. And you bend it back again, and then you'll get that sort of stretchy pattern here, and then you'll get it back here, and over time, this piece here, which is like, you know, maybe an inch long, will grow to be, say, you know, an inch and an eighth or so, because it's sort of ratcheting back and forth. You know, it can compress and stretch so much. You know, and you can see that pattern that, you know, just formed here. So puppet putty actually solves that problem. It doesn't create this kind of pattern. So I thought it was, you know, it's better than Van Aken and all the other clays, really, when it comes to that problem. And so Don was saying that he created a medium hardness, which allows for not, I mean, before it was already really good with puppet putty. You can stretch it back and forth often. But with the medium version, you can do it even more. Supposedly, like the way that it looks is also, I think he said it's more matte, but has still a shiny surface to it. So, like I say, I don't have it yet. I don't have any of his new version yet to really comment too much on it. But I really trust him when he says that he's made it better. If he, just from the video he posted on Facebook that I saw, it is really exciting. So I would argue it's probably one of the best animation sort of, it's not a clay, it's a putty, so, but it's really, really good. So I like Van Aken also, which is what I'm using here. I think that Van Aken has a look to it that I like over all the other clays. So, well, actually, Avalon is also really good, but it's kind of similar in the formulation. But In terms of animating, if you want a formula that is strictly made for animation, Puppet Putty is probably the better one. Well, I can't say probably. It really is, actually. Can't beat it. Like I say, I've grown up with Van Aken. I've grown accustomed to the way it looks, and so I'm kind of biased in what I think looks nice. That's kind of, one of the things, like when you're an artist, and if you've been in art for a long time, you kind of recognize some things to be good and some things to be not so good. And it's not really because they are good or not good, it's because you're just used to it. And so that's what I'm used to. And some of the earlier characters that I saw at Wolvinton Studios, when they made all clay characters, the clay just, when sculpted into a character, looked so lifelike to me because of that. Really, I think it's the right balance of translucency and shininess and all of that that just makes things look alive. So I tend to gravitate towards that sort of look. Even more so than with Aardman Animations that uses the Nuplast clay. And what they do is, although Nuplast is not bad, I think that they also appreciate that sort of translucent look. And they will, from what I understand, they will use sometimes Van Aken clay and mix it into their formula in order to make the properties of the clay a bit different, and also to change the way it looks so it has that somewhat of a matte look. So also, the shininess of the oily, like you can see there's like an oily surface on this here. That's something that's not really desirable. That's not desirable. But one of the things that they would do at Wolvinton Studios was they would use a polarizing filter on their camera as a lens attachment. So you have your regular lens, and you get getting tongue tied. You could screw on an attachment which is like a polarizing filter, and that eliminates all of the shiny glare that you get from the lights and stuff. Not really all of it, but a lot of it. And it changes the way it looks. So, there's ways to get around the problems, but just as a neutral sort of base, color and, or like the saturation of the colors in the clay, and the translucency, like I always talk about, I think Van Aken is a good starting point. It's like a midpoint of all the clays. It's not too shiny like Puppet Putty. It's not really dull like, I think Nuplast has a dullness to it. Like a flat, matte sort of sheen, and that's not really like the greatest thing either. So this is just a good clay. I mean, it really is. But in terms of animation, I know that's what some people are doing is they're trying to take the properties of Van Aken that they love, namely the look of it, and they're in terms of the matteness and everything, the matte, and they're taking the Puppet Putty like this, and they're getting the dark white, which is a sort of it's like a neutral. There's no color really to it. It's kind of like a translucent white. And because the Puppet Putty animates so well, what they're doing is they're taking it and they're melting it into Van Aken. And I know Webster Colcord did that for the Candyman Primus video, I think. So, it just... There's really no one perfect clay. Like in terms of every aspect of it being perfect for animation. And like I said also, is like I said before, is like sometimes you have a bias towards the way you want it to be, and everybody's different, so you never can really say, well, this is the best clay, So what's good about it is you can mix and match and stuff with variety. So Sargent Art Clay, Van Aken, Puppet Putty, Nuplast are all really good to just, if you want to have a lot of options, you want to get as many brands as you can, as long as those brands work well. And the Craft Smart clays do not work well. So if you're into stop motion and you're thinking of doing like a clay hand for your puppets or clay faces, you want to avoid that one. That's the only one that I do not recommend, is Craft Smart clay. And if you guys don't know the story, it's got to do with the fact that Craft Smart clay tends to dry out. And I don't even think I have any to show you guys, because I think I threw it all away. Which is, it takes, a lot of, there's some other puppet putty I'm going to use probably. But it takes a lot of, it just has to be really bad for me to throw something away like that. And so I bought some probably a few years back. I made a video on it to see if it was any good for my YouTube channel. And at first, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was, not so bad. We have a place called Michael's Craft Stores where I live. And so I went there, and they weren't really stocking up so much on the Van Aken clay anymore, and I wanted to have, I think it was actually the gray color. They also had some flesh color and a bunch of other stuff. I was like, well, I really need some clay because I had a project that I needed it for, and they were out of Van Aken, so I'm like, well, Craftsmart, okay, so maybe this is good. And I did use it, and it seemed pretty nice. But after a few years, I went back and I was like, well, I need to use that particular color. So let me open up the package and open it up and everything, and it felt kind of weird. I'm like, it feels kind of like I'm holding a piece of plaster as opposed to oil-based clay. And this is, oil-based clay doesn't dry out over time. So I rip it off the packaging and look inside there and kind of tap it with my finger, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. So I'm like, well, let me break off a piece, let me like pinch off a piece, like you could pinch off like this. You can just pinch it off, and it's soft, and it breaks off like that, and it's not so hard to do. Like usually on a block like this, it actually is a bit hard. You got to press harder until you've worked it, between your fingers and softened it up. But I couldn't even. I'm like pinching as hard as I can, and I couldn't do it. So I'm like, okay, I take the bar and I bend it, and it cracks and then crumbles like almost like a cookie, a dry cookie. And I'm like, oh, that's not very good. So it's the only reason why I say don't buy it, is that if you make anything that you want to use in any kind of a serious way for animation, like if you make a series of puppets, and what you're doing is you're making these puppets in order to make a big film. And a lot of times if you make a short film with a lot of characters or anything, you tend to make a lot of puppets and you don't get around to animating them for a while, and they sit there. If they sit there for too long, it just it dries out, and then you can't animate it. So you've made a nice sculpture that you can put on a shelf, but you can't bring it to life. Now maybe they've changed their formula, I don't know. I think that Michael's Craft Store was just going for the cheapest junk they could get to stock on their shelves, because yeah, it's for kids, and they're not really thinking, oh, we're gonna make this clay just for animators, because animators there's so many of them, which it's like, well, there's not a lot of animators, but they're not thinking about us in terms of artists, as more serious artists, I guess you could say. They're just thinking of like, well, this is for kids, who cares? And yeah, so that's the story. And you gotta be careful with what you buy nowadays, because a lot of this stuff is mass junk. It's made to be cheap so that when they sell it, they make the most profit, and the companies that make the clays get the cheap. If you get the cheap ingredients, you can make it, and you can do it faster, and cheap ingredients are more more or less always available and stuff. So you got to make sure that you know what you're getting into, because sometimes you can just throw your money away if you're not doing your due diligence. Alright, so I'm just going to start adding in some details. So the grass is laid out. I just want to make sure that everything here looks good. Let me look on the camera. So, being that this is like a forced perspective shot, I'm thinking of just like adding in the thicker grass towards the foreground. Thinking also of like just adding little round spheres of clay here and there, just to kind of give this texture. So I'm using the same colored clay that I just used, and I'll do that, and then I'll use a couple of different other colors. And make sure it looks kind of natural. I don't want these to look like uniform pieces of blades of grass and stuff. It's gotta look a bit broken up. Can't really believe it's Wednesday already. Wow, this week went by so quick. So, let's see here. Hopefully this will look alright. Your stuff towards the front. Or bottom. Bottom and front are one and the same. So not much longer before we do animation. I'm hoping the next 2 weeks I should have this set completed. It's already 8:30. Time is just flying, man. So I'm going to go in here with my lighter colored clay. Well, now let me just make a few more blades of grass over here first. Snake. So I am sort of making little snakes below the, let me see here. These guys can do it. See if I can get this camera to go down. There we are. So I'm trying to make these little snakes of clay where I roll it out on the table. Just to make the blade of grass, and then I can sort of break it and add some here and there. Right. See if I can show you guys what this looks like a little bit closer. Oop. Just there. I think I have way too much stuff on this desk here. Running out of space. You can kind of see roughly, what that looks like. So I've got these got texture in there. I'm going to have stray blades of grass here and there. And I will do that with a few colors to break up everything. Give it a little bit of a random look, because nothing in nature is, if it's too perfect and precise and straight and all that, it will not look natural, and that's not good. So I might even use my larger, there we go. I'm going to add heavier texture here. See what this looks like. And that might read better for the camera. Like if I look in my webcam at that, as sort of simple as this set is, I think that texture, it looks good that way. So I'm gonna stick with it. There we are. All right. Not too bad. Deepen some of these lines. Yeah, I think I should have probably made these heavier in the first place. For close-up stuff. I don't know. I think my original idea was that this would be a nicely kept, clean space, like the grass has been mowed or something, but I definitely didn't stick to that plan. I think that this was pretty good. I think because before, like when I didn't add as much texture, it looked too flat. Just looking at it, I kind of like the textured look. Hey, Whiskey, welcome back. So we were just discussing different clays and things like that. All the different stuff you can buy and some of the benefits of each one and the weaknesses of the others. Like they're not all perfect. Alright, well, let's see. This is probably pretty good. Big texture, little texture. And now I think I'll start adding some different colors. So, got some of the lighter green, which is similar to this one strip in the center. I think I'll start adding some little balls around here and there, kind of like rocks or don't really know what. And I think I'm also going to mix in some more yellow. Let's see what I have over here. Oops. What color is this? Yes, I've got this, which is kind of a good green. I think this is what I used the last time for this strip up top. I think I'll use that as the really light color. Who watched the World Cup? I didn't watch it. I'm not really into sports. Not into sports. I don't keep up with it. I don't really know who plays in it, who won. You know, who's like the champion. I have no clue. Not a clue. Definitely liking this texture. I like a lot of texture like that. Not really sure why, but my brain tells me I like it, so I like it. Alright. Yeah, looking in the web camera, I think this is really gonna be way better than if I had made it too flat and perfect like I was originally planning. This is a lot better. Right. So again, I'm going to just make little snakes, a few little snakes of grass. Them around. This. Break things up a little bit. And there's no way for me to really test this out and plop characters on here and stuff. It's going to be hit or miss, trial and error, as to how all these characters will look, you know, spread out on here. I think this strip here would probably be pretty good because it's the clean strip, so if I put characters along here, it'll look like they're sort of in a more nicely kept area, like you would expect, because people would be walking around and whatnot at the base of the tree, which will be about here. So I might actually, when just looking at it here, I might have it where the tree comes down and the roots kind of come in this very center area, and like they won't go beyond there. I think that would be pretty good. So something like this. So it comes down, it kind of goes out to the side. I'm just going to scribe it in like that so I don't forget to do it that way. Alright. Yeah, soccer, yep. Soccer is not really, I mean, it's more of a South American, Mexican sort of sport, and I think in the UK it's pretty popular, and maybe Spain. It's just not really super popular in America. Soccer in America, they call it football. In America, I think don't they call it football soccer in a lot of different countries? Or is it backwards? I don't know. But anyways, football is the big thing here. They have Super Bowl Sunday and all that, and everybody's into football. I think that's the most watched TV broadcast in America. So every time the Super Bowl Sunday is, you know, broadcast, I think there's more people that watch that than any other broadcast ever. The numbers are really huge. Alright, so I'm going to use some of this different colored clay, which is lighter. This is the Avalon clay. So I'm going to add some stuff here and there. Let's see. Just kind of looking at the webcam again, try to see what these things will look like. Kind of looks good, like a rock or something there. Well, that's kind of, let me see if I can. Yeah, that'll look pretty good that way. Pretty good, pretty good. Not big on sports. Even the Olympics and all that, I don't really get into it. It's just, if you watch TV, it's probably pretty good. You know, good way to waste time. But I stick to YouTube. That's where I watch most of my stuff. Okay, so we got our different colors, got our lighter colors here, and I could also add a few lighter colored blades of grass. I think that looks pretty good there. All right. So Janet says in Poland, a lot of people like soccer. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's pretty fun. I knew we had a guy that was from Greece that my dad knew, and he had a big screen TV, and that was what he always had on there was soccer. So I think it's pretty popular everywhere but America. It's popular here, I think, maybe in small groups, but not really overall. Definitely not the most popular sport. We have some weird sports. Like here in America, in schools, we have a game called lacrosse, which is like you have a stick with a little net on the end, and everybody wears like different headgear and stuff to protect themselves. And what they do is they will share the ball, sort of like you would do in basketball or something. You can share the ball, but you don't dribble the ball and you don't throw the ball with your hands. You have to always use this stick with the net on the end of it. And a lot of like high schools and stuff will use that. And like it's, I don't want to say it's a popular. It's not like a TV sport or something like that, but at least in schools, it is really popular. And for a while, I think in probably the 1980s, golf was really popular in America. And to me, golf is like the most boring thing in the world. I mean, you stand there and you hit a little 1 inch, or 1.5 inch round ball with a stick. You watch it fly in the sky for a while, and everybody gets really excited. So I mean, it's just not my thing. Alright, so let's see here. I think we can add some more here. Some different colors, and maybe use this. So I want to kind of break up the way that the grass looks at the base of these little blades of grass. Sort of like that. So it looks like they're emanating from the ground and going upwards, as opposed to like, is it going up and down, or this looks better that way, I think. Like that. And some more stalks. So it looks like time is actually starting to run out already. So I think next week I'll probably start the tree. I think that would be kind of fun. So we'll definitely have to make like a giant sculpted upper tree that we lay on top of the trunk and the branches. So I'll have to come up with a really nice unique texture for that so it does look kind of somewhat realistic. And I might go with what I've been doing here, is to just layer little spheres of clay on one another. Sort of gives the illusion of leaves. I always get tongue-tied. I'll think of two thoughts at the same time and get tongue-tied. I always do that. Especially when I'm tired, like today. Blah, 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 blah. So, Janet says, in Poland, a lot of people like soccer, but Polish teams are bad players. Really? Why do you say that? Are they always messing up or losing? I think with soccer, your legs have to be really strong. I think that's the main key with soccer, right? Strong legs, and you gotta be fast. And probably strong ankles too, because you're like always changing direction when you run. There we go. Alright, so what do you guys think? I think that's probably pretty good. I think we're probably where we need to be with that. I could sort of add, like, what can I do here? Well, if I do it, I'll probably do it after I make the tree. I'm thinking when I add the apples and stuff, there could be apples that have fallen on the ground, so we can have like little red dots. Or we could try to do some sort of flowers, but maybe that would distract from the scene, because we don't really want to make it, we want to make the tree the main focus, right? So maybe the people in the middle and the apples would be the main focus. So I think the major contrast in colors would have to be the apples and the people. So I might not add any other colors here that are lighter in color, like, lighter greens, or maybe adding some very light yellow or something. Because I was thinking I could sort of do that. I could make this, highlight some of this a bit better. But I think that's the bad idea. Maybe being plain with all this is good, and the tree, if we make that nice, I could probably make this sort of, I don't know, I gotta think about that. I'm thinking, because what I'm thinking is, like, if I make the tree the same color green as this, it won't pop out. So I might add more yellow to the tree, or I might make the tree darker, because we've got some darker clay as well. I think darker might be better, because that would make the apples stick out. Here's the dark colored green, so you can see what that looks like. Although looking at it on the web camera, it looks like it's a bit more olive drab, which I don't like. So I'm thinking with the green, I might add some blue in with some of the straight green. I don't know. I really need to think that through before I do it, though. Got some really super bright green. This is the puppet putty. So you love the singers at the Super Bowl? Yeah, they had Katy Perry on that one year. That was pretty amazing. Did you see that? They had like a giant tiger that she was sitting on. It was like, 30 foot tall or something like that. I thought the tiger was pretty awesome. Yeah, that's pretty fun. I wonder if they've ever had any stop motion advertisements for the Super Bowl. I don't think I've ever seen one before. Wouldn't surprise me if Stupid Buddy Studios did an ad for them or something. Because they're always in really popular TV shows and stuff. Some of their ads. And Robot Chicken is pretty well known. At least here in America. I have not actually kept up with them too much as of late. I don't know if they're working on any kind of projects, like short films or anything, or... So add little rocks, yeah. I was thinking of adding little gray rocks along the bottom here or something, but I think I'm gonna stick to green. I think keeping it monochromatic. So making it all green pretty much is the way to go. And as I said before, I think the reason why I want to do that is because I want the characters, which will be different colors, to pop out. So I'm trying to use color to draw the eye of the viewer at the characters that will be seen here in the center, as well as the tree and the apples. So the apples are the key thing because that's a major point so what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it seem like they're really affluent and rich. These are very rich emoji characters. So because they're rich, that would be the way to illustrate it best, I think, is to have it where you can see that in the shot quickly and understand what it is. So my rocks are all green. That's what I'm calling these. I'm going to call these rocks. Kind of liking this. I think it was pretty good. Okay, so let me show you guys a close-up. How much time do we have left? About 6 minutes. So I'm probably just going to go through and detail just slightly more some of these parts, but we have blades of grass. So in the foreground, the blades of grass are kind of long. I don't know if I'm in love with the color that I used for the lighter color, but I'm going to go with it. It's easy to get stuck in this pattern of perfectionism in making films like this, and sometimes you gotta make a decision and stick with it. So I'm gonna stick with it. Sticking with it. Nothing will ever be perfect. So we'll just add a few more blades here and there, just to make sure there's a kind of evenness to it, because right now it doesn't look too even, So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out for a bit tonight. I know that it's already getting late. It's getting late here. It's been a long day for me as it is. But I will not quit. I will move forward. We will complete the film. Because it is fun. And that's really the only reason why, if it wasn't fun doing this, I would definitely not even have started it. So, if you guys out there have not made a film, you should give it a try. You should see if you like it. If you're interested in stop motion, find a style you like, Maybe you've seen a film, maybe it's something from Leica or Aardman, or maybe you've seen a TV commercial, or just somebody on YouTube inspired you. You know, because there's a lot of people out there now making some awesome stop motions, and you know, if you like what you see, try to do it, and at least try it once. You know, I know there's some of you that are watching our show that have not done stop motion, and maybe think it's a little bit crazy or tedious. But once you start, you know, it gets exciting because you start to see your progress, and you feel like, wow, you know, I actually got a lot done on that project. And then you start to amass a bunch of characters and puppets and sets. And when it comes time to animate, you bring it to life and you go, wow, that's pretty awesome. I actually completed something I'm proud of, you know. So it's very fulfilling. And also, you know, it's a great way to express yourself in through art. If you have a story to tell and you want to do it in a unique way, you know, stop motion is the way to do it, because you know, computer graphics like Pixar films and all that, so many people do that now. It's just like everybody has computers. Anybody can buy Blender and just make anything they want, and yeah, it can be unique and everything, but there's a certain look and style to computer animation that you just recognize it instantly, like, oh, it's computers. But when I think of stop motion, I think, you know, you can grab your characters, you can sculpt expressions, and you can put your heart into it a little bit better than in, you know, using computers. Computers are kind of cold in terms of the feedback that they give. You know, because touching a mouse and typing on a keyboard is a lot more different than standing on a set, or you know, holding, you know, sculpting the clay and all that, and you can see it instantly, like, oh, you know, this is how my set looks. This is pretty good. It's, you know, it's got grass and rocks and everything, and you can sort of pick it up and turn it around. You can just take your tool and scoop out a big chunk if you don't like it. And you know what's going to happen when you do that. And it sounds weird to say, like, oh, yeah, I know if I scoop out the clay, I know I'm going to scoop out the clay. But with computers, a lot of times you work on stuff and you're like, well, I want to scoop out the clay in my computerized set. You know, I just want to do this. And you can't figure it out, so you spend like 2 hours, you know, looking at YouTube tutorials. How do you scoop out the clay in my digital set? And that can be it just takes the fun out of it a lot of times. Not all the times, you know. Like I work with ZBrush and I use it a lot, but this is just nice. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it. It's nice. You know what's going to happen if I smash it with my tool. It's going to be smashed. There's no quick save button either. Like you can't lose your you can't lose your clay sculpture from a hard drive crash. I think Don Carlson was telling me that he lost a lot of his stuff in a hard drive crash. You know, it's really, so yeah. I mean, you can, when you capture it digitally, you can lose your digital still images and stuff, but. So, anyways, so what time is it? It is 9 o'clock. So it is time to end the show, but we do have the green area now completed. Next week we will work on probably the tree. I had some bushes I got to add in the background too. I don't know if I'm going to do that next week, but the tree and the bridge are going to be pretty important. And I think that we'll need to make a little cycle of animation for this little creek here. That would be awesome, I think. And maybe we could do that with clay painting, which is where you take mineral oil and you put it in a little cup and you add chunks of clay and you melt the clay down in the oil, and use that to paint. And if we had several different replacement pieces, say of Van Eyck and clay, little strips with the rocks on there and everything, we could probably put the rocks on the top of the plexiglass and put the water underneath. But to paint, the little lines to show where the water is hitting the rocks and splashing and stuff, that would be really cool. So maybe that's something we can talk about next week. So anyways, I do appreciate everybody who stopped by tonight and hung out for a little bit. And I guess I will see you guys next week, same time, same place. See you all later.